There's lots of chat about beer.
Michael, Mark, speak.
Hi, this is Vishal. I have a question on this one. Research and things about future of EA. Just a curiosity, okay, happened to the enterprise architects to get into the newer era where like lean, agile, everywhere there is a focus, and EA had a heavy upfront, but it provides a lot of value in, okay, but now the idea is coming up is like, okay, we need to be lean and agile. Okay, we cannot wait for that long. We need to implement in like 3 weeks and 4 weeks and prototype and get the results back. How EA is going to look like? Ideas about that?
I think that's a bimodal question. Is that what
Yeah,
you're getting at?
I think it's going to be both. I think we're going to have a combination of the traditional EA as well as the forward-looking. We're going to have to be way more flexible than we are now. Agile, or whether you call it agile or not, we're going to have to be flexible with the ability to change as needed and develop artifacts, standard artifacts as needed too, but only what we need. We're not going to have the luxury to document an entire enterprise before we get anything done anymore. Assuming we had that to start with, we don't, but some organizations do.
That is again a very fair point, because the thing is that one of the main agile principle is like, okay, is working product documentation, and EA is like, okay, it does not see the product, okay, unless you go through a lot of documentation. So essentially what people are like, EA does not exist at all in agile world.
I think it can, though. I think if they work together, it can.
So one of the points that I read was that a lot of the software development teams are agile in nature, but enterprise architecture is still waterfall, right? You want to have all of the information and define all the documents before you get started. And, that, I guess in theory, it makes us feel, it makes us feel more comfortable. But what happens in reality is that market conditions change, business needs change, and then you know what I mean. You can spend a lot of time just chasing after updating all your documents now to try and keep up with all those changes, or you're a little bit more along the lines of, I will buy whatever documentation we need in this scenario and situation, and that varies. It varies on the project, what artifacts that I use to apply, to convey messages. That it for every project or program, it actually varies on the level of detail that I need. At just in time, right? Just in time. What's going to help us through the next? Decide on what to work on next and answer the questions that are in front of us, and instead of trying to architect the entire enterprise.
Part of what we're going to do is forward. Okay, we're not stepping on each other now. I think part of what we're going to have to do too is look forward and anticipate what some of these changes are going to be as best we can, and come up with alternate scenarios as far in advance as we can realistically. Obviously, we're not going to be 100% all the time, but we have to prepare ourselves as much as possible to be part of the way, at least, and then agile enough to move as necessary.
I agree. I just want to add to that. I think this is where your vanguard enterprise architects become more of a futurist. They're the ones looking external to see what the risks and opportunities are that are out there on the business horizon that may or may not affect you. And that's where you develop your multiple future states at. And with those, then you can determine what type of documentation or artifacts you're going to have depending on which direction you're going to go.
I agree. So I'll step out here. I've been chatting all over the place, especially about beer. So what we have to be careful of, and this is, my opinion, is Agile's great, but Agile's meant to fix the volatile requirement problem. It does not provide an agile solution, which we're also looking for. If suddenly we change from going over water to going over dirt, we don't want to have to re-architect our system to handle the new change. So we've got to be careful when we say agile and quick and checking and so forth, because a lot of times what happens is these little changes, and anyone who's done software understands this, end up with a rigid architecture. You get so much Band-Aids on top of Band-Aids on top of things, you end up with spaghetti code. It takes careful planning. Agile is successful, and I said this earlier, when you can plan ahead and you've got smart people making good software choices or EA choices or whatever they may be with the future in mind. So Agile is not a magic blue pill. It doesn't get you the answer. It gets you the requirements resolved. But after you've resolved your requirements, did you end up with something that can't handle requirement 99? I was perfectly fine doing 98. That makes sense.
I have a two-part question. In trying to kind of personalize this notion of agile and agile enterprise architecture, is there anybody in this class that, in their work environment is using an agile delivery method for their enterprise architecture? And part two of the question has to do with essentially the master's program. I know that, here at Penn State, the master's program is basically half project management. Is that stuff focused around, or does it address the difference between traditional project management and agile project management?
Well, this is Cynthia. I can answer at least the first part of the question. I am an enterprise architect. I'm also a Scrum Master. That would be someone who's certified in Agile project management, project manager. And I'm not document heavy, right? I don't document for the sake of documenting. I document when we need documents, when we're trying to convey messages, just enough, just in time. And I'm placed in the projects as well to apply an EA view or solution, to make sure that the solutions are in fact have an enterprise architecture perspective. Because often if you don't have someone like that, what often happens is the development teams get kind of pressured to create a solution that's enough for now, right? Like it's just an interim solution or a one-off solution, and it doesn't move us towards our long-term initiatives. So sometimes it takes someone from EA to make sure that in the end what we're delivering in fact is reusable, flexible. We can add on. If we're creating, I know a Quest, direct-to-consumer testing, right? So when we created that in such a way that as more tests are being offered to consumers, that we can easily, add these new tests onto our direct-to-consumer site without having to redevelop the code all over again, right? Because I have the understanding that there's more direct-to-consumer tests coming down the pike, right, down the pipeline. So I'm on that project to make sure that they didn't treat it as a one-off. I'm applying that enterprise view or understanding that I have from the larger executives and stakeholders, right? Does that help?
Vishal, I can talk a little bit about EA in agile scenarios. Actually, company we developed a process which we call it as transparent. We are practicing we're taking that entire, we are doing that scenario where one of the principles that I just heard was like, okay, just enough, just in time, or even like, okay, there is a principle that we use is iterative. Like it does not have to know everything about everything to move the project forward. And you to architect and provide it to the next level option, okay, to be built or revealed so that the team can start progressing on that. How we do that is like a little proprietary. Actually, that we are using is proprietary alone. We know that, okay, John Deere uses some of these, okay, we know Microsoft uses this, IBM uses it, some of the agile enterprise architecture practices. We had that conversation with them. The idea, there are levels of abstraction that we use: contextual, then conceptual, logical, and physical. The way we talk about it is context, basically doing something, okay, which applies to the entire agile team, feature team, or entire delivery team, if you look at it. Then the second one is conceptual, is like, okay, what are we going to do with that? So the first one was why, the second one is what, the logical, how we are going to do that, and the fourth one is with what we are going to do it. So the first part is a contextual, which defines, there is a very small team of contextual people which define a little bit of what context needs to be figured out, and that pass it on to the next level, which is a little bigger team, okay, which takes it to the conceptual level and figure out what is conceptually how it might look like. One part of the conceptual goes to the logical team, and then one part of the logical goes to the physical. There are several different teams working on it and taking over. Essentially, the role of enterprise architect lives in at the context level, okay, where we are working with the business or even the business architects to figure out exactly how much is the context that we can bite on at any given point. Telling you very honestly, we are also very new at this practice. We are finding the problems as we are going forward, and like as I right, so every retrospective today was one of the program in talk about things working for us, and documentation has always been a big problem for us. The enterprise architect or the architect wants to document, and when it goes to the team, they say, no, I'm just going to write the code and move on. So sometimes it feels like, okay, the architects become documenters and the developers becomes the actual coders, and it doesn't work out. So we are still struggling with things. Okay, what is a great balance between like, okay, enough document, and how do we is so that a little bit of that word we have power designer. How do we put that simple one or small words or a few lines instead of big words? And that's why my question earlier was, but we are trying to I would say so far to that we are
Vishal, you are in and out. We're having a really hard time getting anything from you.
every day there is a new chat for the same month. Okay. Sorry, my network connection is dropping out. I'm sorry. I can write up something and send it out to the entire team if you like.
So kind of to follow up on the second part of my question, and maybe this is for folks who've gone through some of the other classes. I saw there was a comment in there. There's not a lot about Agile in these classes and so forth. But being in the IT organization for so long, I've been constantly faced with the whole Agile methodology and delivery approach, and it's usually not some I don't know, it's not something that seems to be embraced beyond IT, and most people beyond that don't really get it. Oftentimes even organizations that are running it don't really get it. And so I'm just curious as to how does project management really fit into an organization? Because I know that project management has to be there. It's got to be part of the organization. But how does it work in the perspective of enterprise architecture, especially when you're looking at future of EA?
Well, I can say that if Agile is being implemented properly in project management, and this is where we're talking about, typically your business partners and stakeholders generally are engaged. They are part of the team. So on our meetings and discussions, you always have business representatives, or you identify your stakeholders, to give input throughout the entire process, and then you show them at the end of the sprint the work that you've completed, your deliverables, and the business team and partners are supposed to be there to kind of view that information, or it could be documents. What deliverables come in the many forms, could even be EA artifacts for that matter, right? And I'm given tasks, stories and tasks as an enterprise architect as part of the team. And then at the end of the sprint, we review our work, and they have to agree that, yep, that is the future state that we were thinking of. Yes, that is the process, the new and improved process that we were thinking about, that kind of sets the tone. So I think once it's implemented properly, I think you're going to get beyond the getting it part, right? I think in at least our organization, the business partners are thrilled, because prior to that, they were kind of kept out of the development cycle for the most part until the end. And then it would kind of be like, oh, well, we like this and this other thing, you're way off. You know what I mean? You've kind of didn't quite get what we were saying, right? And then I guess what's the future is, I think for me, the first time that enterprise architects are actually being assigned as part of the Agile team, Scrum, the Scrum team or Agile team, where I'm actually part of the team itself, kind of guiding and working, what the future state should look like, and then again making sure that it adheres to our enterprise views, right? And again, the continuity between some of the executive leadership and the executive team, right, or execution team. So if they're not getting it, I'm not sure they're participating like in the way that they're supposed to, because I think once they do, they generally accept it very well. At least they have it on my organization. So that, I think that's the first part of your question. And then what was the second part?
Oh, just about the courses as part of the master's program at Penn State. Whether they teach purely traditional project management, or do they incorporate Agile into the education process, into is part of the course material that they're teaching.
I don't know, maybe Dr. Ocker would.
I can jump in here. Um, I the project management courses, I believe, are traditional, and they're taught out of the faculty at the Erie campus. We are in the process of I'm meeting with the graduate council at the college level tomorrow. I'm putting forth, we're talking about a joint program between SMEAL, the School of Business at University Park, and Enterprise Architecture. And that degree, if we get approval, would be called Enterprise Architecture and Business Transformation. It would have several concentrations in it. And one would be business architecture, one would be information architecture, one security architecture. We would keep the project management. So even with that, the project management would stay, but I'm not sure that we even have any plans at this point to work Agile into the project management courses, because we don't really own those courses. However, I'm extremely interested in Agile concepts and applying Agile in enterprise architecture, whether it's Agile EA or EA that is Agile. Different flavors of it, but I think you will find as we move forward, you will get Agile concepts within classes.
And so, Rosalie, when is that different flavors of the master's program going to kind of be put together?
When is it going to be put together?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have the support of both deans. We have it mapped out. I have to go before the College of IST grad council tomorrow, and more so to raise their awareness. So 2017, some of those management courses and their strategy courses will be on the books and being offered then.
Yeah. The reason I ask is, I'm debating on whether I want to pursue the master's degree or just stop at the certificate, which I should have by the end of the summer. But, looking at all of those project management classes, I question whether or not I need all those project management, or what's going to be most helpful for me long term.
Right. So I could talk with you. I believe there are probably more than just you who question some of those project management. It just depends what you know and what you're interested in. So, but business architecture, information architecture, security architecture. We have security architecture on the books now. And then those management courses, I think 2 of those are already approved. And I believe we're talking fall 2017, maybe sooner. So you could pause if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how this affects anyone else here. I don't want you to pause your program. There's plenty of EA courses that you can take and hold off on some other pause. That's very clever. And hold off on maybe some of the management courses if that works. I mean, none of this is proved yet, but we are moving, I think this is great. I think it's great. And I've been collaborating with people over at SMEAL. So what do you guys think? I don't want to take anybody's thunder away. Sorry, I'm sorry. So I'll turn it back over to the Future of EA group. Ben. Hello?
I think that's all that we had. The last two slides are just reference slides.
Okay.
So all yours.
All right. Great. Well, thank you very much, Future of EA. How about some other discussion on the Future of EA coming from the discussion board? I didn't get a chance to put the slides together, but I saw some good discussion. Anybody? Okay, see you, Daniel. Take care. Ben, I think you had a comment that the future of IT is likely to be a fusion of EA and DevOps.
Yeah, and that's, part of the reason that I went with this program kind of to begin with. I mean, this is my first semester for the MPS program. And it's just kind of a trend that I see, at least within GE, where a lot of the more traditional, especially in the infrastructure side, which is where I'm out of, work it's being heavily commoditized, right? I mean, it's either directly contracted out or, increasingly as more and more applications are migrated to cloud-based services, let's say like AWS, for example, where these software engineers, they don't need to worry about the actual infrastructure this stuff is running on, right? I mean, they can literally now code it. At the very beginning of your program, they just put, and this needs 100 billion gigs RAM, because they're software guys, they don't know, but that's what that allows them to do now. And I really feel the jaws of evolution at my throat here, right? Where it's like, well, crap, this is clearly the direction a lot of this stuff is going, and a lot of the more technical side of IT, I think, is going to really fall by the wayside going forward.
Interesting. Anybody else want to jump in? I guess not. Really? All right. Well, I guess you're all done, right? Is that right?
We are.
All right. I know. I'm afraid of.
At least he's honest.
Right. Okay. So then we are done. I hope I see you, many of you see you, figuratively speaking. I teach the research class, and I'm teaching it this summer. And that is EA 594. So for those of you that are sticking around for the MPS, I will see you for that. And if you want to stay in touch, I'm on LinkedIn, and I would be happy to stay in touch with you. And I guess that's it. I hope you enjoyed this class and got things out of it. I know I did. Nita Refund from Penn State. Okay, so I guess that's it, guys. I really enjoyed it.
So did I.
Oh, good. Good.
For the people in my group, did we decide who's turning in the final document?
I don't know. I don't know if we
You do
decided
not.
that or not.
Who wants it?
I'll take that task,
Thank you.
and I'll send it to Megna and Dr. Octor, correct?
Yes,
First,
that's correct,
and
Cynthia.
related to the remaining students, is correct?
Yes, Cynthia.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks, Rosalie. I will see you in May.
Great. I will look forward to meeting you, Teresa.
Alfredo, you sound hilarious.
Okay, so that wasn't just me that heard that.
No.
Too many nuts in the cheeks.
I wasn't sure if it was just me. That's funny.
Dr. Ocker, are you teaching section B and section A, or just section A on the summer?
Of EA 594?
I guess.
I am teaching multiple sections. I am teaching EA 594, and I think I'm also teaching IST 594. I'm teaching you would want to be in the EA section. Alfredo, stop. Oh, how long are the recordings going to be to get available? As long as you have access to the class. Mickey Mouse is taking over. As long as you have access to the class. I don't know how long you guys have access to the class. If it's months or whatever, but I won't be taking them down. Oh, and oh, you mean because they're on YouTube? I don't know. They'll be up there for a while.
Rosalie, I do have a question real quick, I guess, about 594. That's the capstone for the EA program, right?
It is.
So I was just looking on the, I guess the degree audit sheet. So you do have to take. It's like there's like two pieces of it, right? Like it's a 2 credit and then a single credit.
It's a 2+1, and so we did that. We used to have 2 entire courses, one for research methods and then one for writing. It was another course, and in that course you would write the thesis, master's thesis. And when I took over, I said, that is a lot of research for an MPS program. So we cut it back, and to give students enough time to actually conduct the research, we made it a 2+1. So that extends the time that you have to complete the research component. First you learn about the research, then you conduct the research. So that's why it's a 2+1. And
that's why they have to be taken concurrently. Or not concurrently, but one after the other.
Exactly. So that's why, and we do that same thing in the IST, the ISMPS. We do 2+1, and it works well there. So we decided to adopt that.
Okay.
What is the prereq for 594? Do you have that?
You know what? Hang on. I gotta put my mic down. It's across the room. 1 second.
So I will address Michael.
It says prerequisite EA 874, management 515, 531, and 540.
Okay. So it's because they want it to be at the end. Okay. All right. So here's the plan we're going with. Here's the plan that I talked about before, Michael, and anyone else who wants to hear this. So we would have four, I'll type it out here, 4 management courses from SMEAL, and they would be on strategy and business transformation, including leadership, that would, including leadership. We would have 4 concentrations. And this is all proposed. This is all proposed. We have support of both deans. We have a lot of legwork that has to be done. Oh, it's the SMEAL College of Business. It's not an acronym, it's a name. I finally refer to it as SMEAL, but it's SMEAL. 4 concentrations. One would be information architecture. One would be business architecture. One would be security architecture, and one would be project management. So the project management would consist of courses that are on the books now. But each of those concentrations, yes, if you want to go tech, you could with, you mean like with information architecture, security architecture. Right. So still the security architecture, it's not like cybersecurity. We have courses in, hi Doug, in cybersecurity. We have an MPS degree. You can always take some of those courses. Don't believe him, Doug. Okay, so fine. Cyber scares me too. So security would have a bent on risk, enterprise architecture, and enterprise risk management. It would really, the security was really focused on enterprise risk management and the relationship between EA and ERM, which we're having that symposium on that Teresa's going to go to. That symposium on I talked about last weekend, May 18th, that one-day symposium. Information security. So those courses, so when I was at the Gartner the other month, and I was asking some chief data officers or chief data architects, whatever they call them, it depends where you work, what courses they would recommend, and data, like master data management, data strategy, data governance, and each one of those is not a separate course, but topics, and hello dog, and then data modeling. So within those areas, in information security, that is a good question, where that is going to be covered. So that's what I know now. I just want you all to know that while none of this is finalized, we hope to move in this direction, and those SMEAL courses are on the books and will be offered beginning 2017. So just so you know. Any other questions? Sure. And, you know, contact me anytime, you guys. I'd be happy to give you updates as we move this along. So it's been a pleasure. Hello, Kat.
You are currently